Hello BookTube, what's up? My name is Juan, I'm just one reader, and welcome to my first recent reads video for 2017. Today I'm going to tell you the first three books that I have read this year. It's really promising that we are only 2 weeks into 2017 and I've already read three books. Two of them are pretty lengthy. One of them is over 900 pages long, although I did read most of it during December, but still I want to feel proud and motivated to keep things going like this throughout 2017. So the first book that I read is, and I'm not going to talk a lot about these because the first two books at least I'm not going to discuss with a lot of depth because I have made separate reviews for them. The first one is The Labyrinth of Spirits. This is by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, the famous Spanish author. This is the last book, the big conclusion to the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, which is a quartet of Gothic Spanish mystery novels, I guess I would describe them as. Maybe some people say that they are historical fiction. I disagree. I think they really are mysteries at their core. They are incredibly literary, and by that, I mean that they are all about books and reading and writing and, just for bookish people. I enjoyed this in general. However, I did find it quite problematic. I found the particular mystery of this book as a standalone to be kind of contrived and convoluted, hard to follow. So for those reasons and some other issues like the huge unnecessary length of this novel, I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure I would recommend it as much as the other 3 books in the quartet, but still the ending, the conclusion to the series was very, very good, and I am very satisfied in the end. So 3 stars. Then the second book that I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. By the way, I forgot to say that I do have a review of the entire series, The Cemetery of Forgotten Books, up in my channel. You can go watch it now. It is spoiler free, so you can see what each book is individually about and what the series as a whole is about. And I talk a little bit about the writing style, the characters, what are the strengths of this series and its weaknesses, etc., etc., etc. Now, Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. This is the millionth time that I read this, but this time I was reading it for my series Rereading Harry Potter as an Adult, so I was really trying to look for things that I had never really thought about when reading Harry Potter, during my childhood or teenage years or whatever. So this time I made another separate review called Rereading Harry Potter as an Adult, Prisoner of Azkaban, and in that review I spoke more about the teachers, because now that I'm a teacher, now that I'm an adult and I get to teach, my perspective of this book has obviously changed, and it was really interesting. I loved rereading this book. In contrast to the previous 2 books in the series, I found this one to be a lot better, a lot more alive and magical, and yeah, I found the first 2 books to be overly childish and simplistic, and the writing was very good, but still, they were just not enough for me anymore. Whereas the third one, I found it absolutely captivating and enthralling, and I would read it again right now. So yeah, I would strongly urge you, obviously, to go and watch my separate review for this one if you are interested in hearing about the teachers at Hogwarts, the education system at Hogwarts, and some other random thoughts that I got. So in this reread, I gave Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban a 4 stars. I thought it was really excellent. And the last book that I want to mention today, and I'm not sure if I should make a separate review for this one because I have so much to talk about. This book, I just finished it today, a couple of hours ago, and I just want to have a very long discussion with someone about it. And this is Rolanda by Speedo Frere. This is the original Spanish version, and I'm so glad that I read this in its original language. This was delightful to read. The writing style, the prose is stunning, and it totally matches and corresponds to the weird, beautifully dark and haunting story of Rolanda. So Rolanda is a seemingly simple story which has a lot of texture and richness and layers to it. I really think this is the sort of book that booktube would love. And I mean booktube, when I say booktube, I mean the type of booktube or the booktubers that tend to enjoy magical realism, or books that have this very atmospheric tone and this kind of weirdness to them. You know, it's really in right now to read this type of literature that's kind of weird. Magical realism, we now call magical realism. We call everything magical realism. And I'm not sure this counts as actual magical realism, but booktube, you need to read this. You're gonna love this. This feels like a combination of We Have Always Lived in the Castle by what's her name, Shirley Jackson, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, I dare say, believe it or not. And if you like any or all of those ingredients, then you're gonna love Rolanda. The story of Rolanda, like I said, is seemingly simple. It's about this girl called Natalia, and Natalia is mourning the loss of one of her sisters, Sagrario. And so she's very, very depressed, and the whole family is kind of, struck with grief. And so her parents decide that they don't want her staying for the entire summer, staying there with them and mourning the loss of her sister. So they decide to send her away for the summer to this country estate with her cousins. And one of her cousins is Irlanda, the title character, who is everything that Natalia is not. Natalia, the protagonist, is a very odd character. She is, from the very first sentence, we can see that she is a very weird girl. She has these visions of ghosts. She has a very vivid fantasy life, a very vivid inner life, which is not really imagination. It kind of goes a little bit further into the realm of insanity, in my opinion, or at least that's how I decided to interpret it. She has this kind of very, very strong urges and very strong dreamlike fantasies. She has this very anguishing and horribly poignant fantasies of being chased by the spirit of a turtle, and it's very unsettling. It's a very unsettling character, and she's obviously very introverted. She doesn't really talk. She's very naive and childish, but she's just weird, and she's a wonderful character to read from, particularly since the entire book is written from her first person point of view, so you really get to experience her mental state and her inner life, the inner workings of her psyche. She is contrasted with Rolanda, the main character, who is like the it girl. She's the popular girl. She's perfect. She's always dressed in white. She's very pretty. She has this kind of a troop of followers / friends, and yeah, she makes out with the beautiful, handsome boy. She is the Glinda to Natalia's Elphaba, in a way. They develop this very, very strange relationship, and the writing is just, man, you need to read this book too. Just believe me, you need to read this. And the relationship starts getting weirder, and it starts escalating. Things start escalating until we reach a conclusion that is very satisfying. I anticipated it. I was able to predict it. I thought it was the only conclusion really that would really make sense, and when it came, even though I had predicted it, it was very satisfying nonetheless, and it just made complete sense to me, and I loved it. I thought it was a very unsettling, very short novel, so I really recommend this book. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm still not sure. I just finished it today. I need to let it sink in. I don't want to rush a rating and then have to bump it up or lower it down, so I'm just gonna wait. But I think 4 stars seems really appropriate. So in conclusion, my recent reads so far have been The Labyrinth of Spirits, 3 stars, The Prisoner of Azkaban, 4 stars, and Rolanda, 4 stars. The book that I would recommend the most, just like in general, the one that I would recommend the most, or my personal favorite from this batch, is definitely Rolanda by Speedo Frere. You need to read this booktube. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm Just One Reader. I will see you next time for my next recent reads.